What's up guys, Joe here, back to the studio, and today's video is talking about Cam TV, the prototype of total drama. So you guys wanted me to do a discussion on this, so I'll make a discussion theory. But 90% of you guys actually wanted this as a topic, so let's get on to the video. So, Cam TV is the prototype of total drama. The first developed in 2003. It only existed for a trailer of the series and was released in early 2006. After receiving feedback from the potential broadcasters, the project went through major creative overhauls and was officially renamed Total Drama Island on March 27, 2006. So I have some screenshots and kind of some theories because there is the trailer on YouTube. So just literally type in Cam TV and you'll actually get to watch the entire trailer. I can always put in the description as well, but in the comments. But according to Tom McGillis in 2008 interview with TVSE and Jennifer Pershines originally developed a cartoon titled Escape from Summer Camp. This show would have allowed a group of kids trapped in a tricky camp somewhere in North Canada. However, soon after convincing the idea, McGinnis and Parisian transformed the original cast into a reality show format. So that would have been interesting. Instead, it was like kind of they have to escape an island where they were trapped on. Okay, so Cam TV is an animated comedy series about reality starring 10 campers who do not know about their every move. So a cheerleader, a goth, a computer geek, a juvie delinquent, a jock, a rocker, party girl have in common nothing. That's why they all signed up for summer camp. They have no idea about themselves and yeah. So basically, a computer geek, that's gonna be Cody, Duncan, Tyler, a rocker, Trent maybe, and Lindsay, right? Potentially, like these were kind of the early characters. So television's producer Brock Rodwell had managed to convince Summers into Camp TV, now portrayed by Brock. Summer fun difference. So I think originally Brock was going to be a pretty important character. I think Chris was always in the show, but I think Brock was, I believe he was kind of hinted at being maybe a producer or something, but I had actually heard the name before. I don't know much about Brock, but in the animation show, millions of viewers will watch and react to vote on the lines as every session escapes attempts to be caught hidden on cameras. From time to time, we cut to our regular fans as they cheer, boo, or throw potato chips as they scream. By the end of the summer, one of the campers will be voted off most popular teen of the year. As Brock would be quick to point out, this is great television. Before they arrive out here, never had a reason to speak one another. Now the TVs themselves, these 5 girls and 5 guys must learn to leave their labels behind and get along if they get to survive the summer camp, the world's biggest popularity. There are the stars that show that they don't know yet. Okay, so that was kind of the original kind of 2003 kind of overview of the series. Now, there are some screenshots that down here, like I do have, like all these, and I'll get to all these because these are going to be very interesting to go through as well, and their personalities of every character. So gallery, that's kind of important there. So I'm not sure if I'll read all this, but I'm going to go through the most important parts. So, fresh animation TV considered jumping onto the reality TV bang. We thought that coming up in the hot new for searching the funniest, most insane professional peoples around. They turn the cameras on and helping them show in true colors. But when we had ever better, we welcome to Cam TV on a reality whole new level by removing the real part. Okay, so the cheesy camera. Cam TV, it takes... Okay. Alright, so that's kind of their overviews. And then I'm going to go now to the characters because I'm sure you guys mainly just want to know about the characters. Right. So, first of all, we have Beth. Now, Beth appears in the Cam TV promo alongside Cody and Harold. She has no lines. In the promo type, Beth is notably taller, thinner, and total drama counterpart. Her design strongly resembles Velma Dinkley from the Scooby-Doo series. So, I've actually got Velma Oh, not Velma, sorry. Beth. So this was Beth. Yes, guys, this was the original Beth. And I can actually see that, actually. It'd be a lot like Velma. If you guys watch Scooby-Doo, like, I can see that 100%. So that was like... And then this is kind of like Beth on her own. But this was like a Beth before the actual Beth we got, right? The prototype. So... Potentially her character... Now, I'm just theorizing here. Potentially her character might have been really smart. Like, Beth is still quite smart in the show, but I feel like she might have been like a Noah situation, right? Potentially Beth could have been like a Noah, a female Noah, possibly like an Emma Noah character. I think that potentially could have been Beth. I think personality would have stayed the same, but I think she just might have been a bit more maybe schemish, you know. So, and maybe she's a bit like Harold. She likes mysteries. Possibly is why they focused Velma, or maybe their personalities are all the same with slight tweaks. But we'll get through that. So next up is Bridget. Bridget does not appear in the Camp TV promo. In this prototype, she has her hair pulled back, wears earrings, and necklace, short torn above the knee. Certain aspects of her design resembles Courtney, mostly her straightened eyes and her freckles. Okay. So, Bridget, right, I'm going through all these and kind of explain them. Was this character. So Bridget, this is what I could find on Bridget. So she was one of the few characters who was not in the trailer at all. So Bridget was planned to be in it. And I can see her actually looking very similar to Courtney. Like at the face, I can see the face be very similar to Courtney. I think kind of her posture as well, like some of the traits. I think Bridget was going to be kind of still a little bit like Courtney, where she was pretty smart. I feel that Bridget was still chill. I think she would have been pretty relaxed, but a relaxed person. I don't think she would have been like Courtney, because I think Courtney's kind of like a one of a kind. I don't think the writers had planned Courtney's original personality on anyone. I think Courtney's original personality was going to be Courtney's only. So I think Bridget potentially could have been a little bit of herself and Courtney into one character. And here's the thing, though. Here's the thing I'm interested in. And she would not get with Jeff. Yes, guys. Jeff and Bridget would not be a couple in this Camp TV version, which we will get to that later. Chef Hatchet. Camp TV's features as the character simply named Chef, though he does not appear in the promo or any promotional art. The early version of the chef does not wear a chef hat. It is notably shorter than Total Drama counterpart. Severely of his features, and in particular of his mustache, are far more extended than those familiar Chef Hatchet. Okay. So it seems like Chef, right, was going to be completely different to what we got. So this was going to be Chef. And this is just a completely different character. You would not think this is Chef Hatchet. Like, the man who is like a military kind of guy. It just seems like Chef was going to be kind of like this grumpy kind of guy. So maybe he was still kind of a tough character, but he just wasn't physically stronger. So, I mean, that's a possibility. I think Chef may have been a bit older as well, which is something to consider when you look at like his features. So I think Chef may have been a little bit older than he was going to be. Now, obviously, he was planned to be in the show. So I think Chef just designed later on. But I think that's kind of it for Chef, to be honest. And I think he was going to be still the co-host, because I think Chris was always planned to be the host of the show. But in the promo type of the trailer, even really, you don't find anything of Chris. Like, Chris is not even revealed, like, which is kind of crazy because he's like the main character. So Cody appears alongside Beth TV promo. He has no lines. He's actually an early version of Duncan, who would have later become a recurring intern. Some of Cody's minor features, in flat hair and eyes, were later repurposed and given to Ezekiel. So that is interesting, actually. Cody was going to kind of have certain features of Zeke. So here that's Duncan, but This is the original Duncan. Now, I'm pretty shocked that this was going to be potentially Duncan in like the first kind of draft. So this was going to be Cody, right? Now, this guy is a very important character in Total Drama because if you guys are not aware, he's the intern in episode 6 where he said who ordered the pizza, right? He was that character. And he's the most iconic intern, actually, where he said, it's like, over here, man. And another scene's in, I think it's an action where he's kind of filming something. I mean, it's probably Manhunt as well. If I just type in intern and show you guys real quick who I'm on about. Yeah, so this was the guy I was on about. This was the intern who was being used as a later design in Total Drama. So this was the episode I was on about, you know, when he's asking for pizza of the camera crew. And then another scene was, he was a stunt double and who you can trust, right? So, and then right on set, he was like angry with this character, who's kind of like a prototype of another character later on. So, yeah, you can see him in the Aftermath 3, but the point I'm trying to get at, he's like the most iconic intern who doesn't have a name, which is pretty crazy, right? He's probably the most iconic intern, actually, in my opinion, but like he's the most iconic in terms of like, I know we got like Josh and Revenge Down like character names, but like he's most iconic because we don't know his name. Like he's seen in the first episode. I believe he's actually seen the first episode. Let me know in the comments what episodes is this guy in, because he's a very famous intern. I just can't think every single time, but like he's a very iconic character. But he was definitely in the episode where like they were trying to get pizzas, right? And like Jeff was like, and Heather was kind of giving out like, "Are you serious?" So as you can see here in the prototype, Cody, he's here as well with Harold. So Cody, well, my boy Cody. So Cody was going to be the intern that was kind of the most iconic in Total Drama, which is pretty crazy. Right, so DJ. Now, although DJ's prototype, and when you're going through this, I'm going to point out all the characters who are actually missing. So, although DJ's prototype appears much more timid and speaks in a deeper voice, Montanian voice, he still retains his good-natured and affectionate personality. His only line of problems are, "Come here, you," was later reused in Hide Me Sneaky. DJ's old design was recycled. It first appeared on one of the interns in Total Drama Rama Island and right on set, and was later repurposed for B and Revenge of the Island. I 100% see that, so I'll quickly just show you guys who the character is. So this was actually going to be originally DJ. This was DJ. And I see that 100%, the resemblance to be that intern who I showed earlier that was upset when he got angry like right on set. He's also that intern. So this was going to be DJ. Now, he's very different to his original design. There's not even a similarity apart from the maybe his personalities. There was nothing similar. Now, he's one of the actual only characters when we get to Trent, who is not happy to see him. So that's pretty cool. Right. So I have a theory when we get to like the contestants, kind of the story, because they weren't going to know they're on a reality show. So DJ, that is him. I think he was going to be a nice guy, kind of the same personality. Maybe a bit, that's kind of really it though. Like DJ wasn't going to be that much different similar to Cody. I don't know if Cody still would have liked Gwen though. That's the only thing, right? The crush on Gwen, would that still exist? No. I think it would, because it's a part of his character. It's just that I don't know how much it would kind of work. But anyway, Duncan, of course my favorite character, had two distinct designs in Cam TV. The first was eventually recycled into Cody's prototype and later repurposed again a recurring intern. Modified version of his design also appears as one of Chris's bandmates in a boy band, Fametown. Duncan's second design is far more recognizable and is nearly identical to his final version in Total Drama. The only differences are a grimmer expression, a different color for his piercings, and darker circles under his eyes. So, Duncan, he's the first character on this list that basically is identical. Like, Duncan was identical to his original version. Right, so the eyes are kind of different. His piercings. Like, Duncan's probably the most similar in terms of his character. Like, he's one of the few characters. So he was still going to be the delinquent. Duncan's personality, I don't think, would have changed at all. To be honest, the only thing is Courtney. She doesn't exist. In the prototype, Courtney was not an original character. So I think Duncan's personality would have been the same. I think, though, he would have probably got with Bridget, because Bridget looks a bit like a Courtney, and Jeff and Heather Gwen were together, and Bridget just kind of seems pretty chill, and I could definitely see in this alternate reality Bridget and Duncan being a couple. Now, I think Camp TV might have just been one season, though. I don't know if they were going to make it a 3-season show at that point. I think at that point it was just going to be one season. So when I'm explaining Camp TV, I'm just going to assume it's one season. So Duncan, this is him now. I just showed this is the original prototype from earlier. But Duncan potentially would still be friends like DJ, but I think potentially him and Bridget, maybe a Bridget Duncan shipping, possibly. I think it's kind of weird to think of, because it's just weird because Duncan doesn't even like Bridget at all. So I'm just trying to think of a scenario like, why would this work? Because Bridget would be very similar to kind of Courtney in this version, I guess. Her and their personalities, but she'd be a lot more laid back about it than Courtney was. Courtney was very an anxious person. I feel like if Bridget was in that situation with Duncan, she wouldn't be as angry at Duncan. She's kind of like, oh, that's cool, whatever. I feel like she wouldn't be as annoyed. I think she'd still get annoyed about it, but I don't think would as quickly. So Duncan is almost identical to the original. Now, the next person, I'm going to talk about the characters, is Eva. So Eva is one of my favorite characters, my favorite female actually in the teledrama series Island Gem 1. Now, Eva's original is almost unrecognizable, her design. When compared to total drama counterparts, while her final appearance is that of an athlete and a brutal woman, her Camp TV design is similar in appearance as a much stronger resemblance to Heather. Eva does not appear in the Camp TV promo. Now, she's actually a character as well, doesn't appear in the prototype. So that's why some of them are in colour and some are not, is they just didn't appear in the trailers. So this was going to be Eva. You can see kind of the Heather head on her as well. Her hair being slightly pulled back looks like a world tour situation. You can obviously see the Heather kind of clothes, like the top and the trousers, the pants, like from like Heather's final design. I can see why she was cut into this design if you were making Heather later on, but I guess her original personality was, because she was so unrecognizable, it's possible that Eva was going to be really smart instead of being really strong, or she's actually both, right? Alec in this Venture Camp is a good example. Now, Alec's pretty strong and smart, so I've got a feeling that Eva going to be really smart like Heather was, but I think she was going to be a bit like a Noah, similar to Beth, but I think in a different way, where Beth was kind of smart in a Harold kind of way. I think Eva was going to be in like a Noah way, right? I don't think she would be a sarcastic. She wouldn't do a Noah sarcasm thing, because I think that's just a Noah thing, but I do feel like Eva 100% would have been a pretty smart character. Now, would she still be a powerhouse? I think yes. And I think people would initially underestimate Eva because they would just think she isn't very strong on the surface. But I think when everyone kind of says, oh, she's strong, you know, I'm potentially thinking Eva and DJ maybe love interest as well in this rewrite, because it says in the first episode, the drama is like, you know, she's all yours, big guy. I kind of had a feeling that Eva was supposed to get cut as early as she did. I always had a bit of a feeling that she got cut way too early. And I think this is kind of why. I think Eva was going to act completely different to her original counterpart. and her designs are very different. So I think that's kind of either. Now, I think, to be honest, when we move to the next character, Ezekiel. Now, Ezekiel is particularly facial body shape and preppy appearance suggests elements that would be later used for Noah. A modified version of his designs also appear as one of Chris's bandmates and his boy camp Fametown. Okay, so in the original prototype version, Heather, Corny, Izzy, and Noah did not exist in this version of the story. Instead, it was going to be 18 campers instead of 22. Again, Ezekiel was another character who didn't get into the promo type trailer, but I believe Ezekiel was going to be really rich. Because really think about this. Ezekiel doesn't look like he kind of does in the final version. I believe Ezekiel was going to be a little bit richer than his counterpart. And it would explain why, Zeke is kind of the way he is. Because there was an original theory that Ezekiel was going to win Total Island. So in the original script, he was going to win, but they later changed it. So I feel like here, Ezekiel might actually be richer because he seems a bit more dressed up than he usually is. So I do think Ezekiel possibly was richer than his counterpart. I think he was possibly a bit richer. Maybe befriended the likes of Tyler. Possibly. You could also possibly say that maybe Eva. You could say that maybe Eva was the Lindsay of this prototype. But I do think Ezekiel was going to be kind of a rich kid. And I think potentially even pretty street smart. I think he would be pretty street smart. Like, he'd have pretty good social skills as well. So I feel like that's kind of who Zeke would be in this prototype. He kind of looks similar to his original version. To be honest, the face does look like Noah. And the hair kind of does a bit as well. And the back of his head's kind of like Ezekiel. But he's almost identical to his, very different, but somewhat similar to his prototype. Now, the next character I wanted to read is Jeff. So, Jeff is by far a very interesting character when you read this. Now, Jeff's role, Count TV, appears to be far more prominent as he's nearly in every scene of the promo. Is in most promotional arts, instead of him pairing with Bridget, he's in a relationship with Gwen and seen to share a rivalry with Trent. The two glare at each other in the promo. However, the promo images show that Jeff, with his arm drapered over Trent, both of them smiling confidently. Jeff is one of the few characters whose voice design personality remain almost entirely unchanged from his prototype to the final version. So I'm going to read the designs first and then go through the other screenshots after I've read all the characters. So as you can see, Jeff's personality was going to stay completely the same. His design is basically the same. I think Jeff's actually, apart from Duncan, is the closest to his original design. Not a lot to say about Jeff here. Instead of him dating Gwen, I think it's an interesting pairing. Since in Total Drama Island, I've always found it really weird that Gwen and Jeff's friendship kind of ended. And I almost kind of feel that it just never really went anywhere. Don't get me wrong, I think Jeff and Bridget are an amazing couple, and it's hard to imagine Jeff and Gwen, but that just kind of storyline, it makes sense now why it never went anywhere. As a result, now obviously on TV, I believe it's just going to be a one season. But I think Jeff, to be honest, not all to say about his prototype, to be honest, just basically the same. His personality is unchanged. I think it's interesting that he's rivalry with Trent. Now, this is something that Jeff would be cool, since they're both very chill guys. They're both very kind of, popular people. And Jeff is the party animal. And him not liking Trent is actually really interesting, because Jeff I believe, is one of the few characters in Total Drama who doesn't really hate people. Like, he doesn't really hate anyone when you watch the show. I mean, he has a reason to hate Heather, but, like, he doesn't, which is really weird. He voted him off, so that's Jeff, and now we'll just go on to... So, like, Jeff appears the most in the prototype, so Jeff was possibly going to be a main character here, which is interesting. Probably the protagonist. Gwen. Although Gwen's prototype is voiced by Megan Flanagan Book, she differs from her final counterpart in several significant ways. First, her original name in Cat TV was Heather, a name later given to the main antagonist of Total Drama Island, while Gwen shares a same head and shape and body as her later design. This early version is non-gothic, features as a much bigger color patterned red hair, green eyes, red lipstick, blue cuff jeans, a brown t-shirt and sandals. The prototype Gwen is also in a relationship with Jeff and appears to despise Trent. Now, I did find this, if you go into Gwen and Trent's relationship, so the prototype show and they don't get along very well. In addition, in the show, even being strangling each other. What's the promo image? Instead, she seemingly has a relationship with Jeff, but the idea was later scrapped for the final version of the show, although homage was paid to Jeff and Gwen's original relationship. That's crazy. So that's insane. Like, Gwen hating Trent, and Gwen was going to be called Heather, which is kind of crazy. Since, you know, Gwen and Trent are like the kind of go-to couple in Total Drama. Like, in Total Drama, you think of Doug and Courtney, Gwen and Jeff, well, sorry, not Gwen and Trent, Lindsay Tyler even. You know, they were going to hate each other. Really crazy, because that's not a thing that, like, Gwen is. Like, that is so different. So Gwen wasn't even supposed to be, like, a goth. Like, that's actually really interesting that Gwen was, like, kind of somewhat similar to a final version, but ultimately Gwen hating Trent. There you go. Now we're going to move on to Harold. So Harold has a small role in the Camp TV promo, where he inquires about whereabouts of his red ant farm, only to learn that it has been emptied out onto Lindsay. His ownership of the red ant farm was carried over to Total Drama's Island, and not quite famous for Gwen dumps Harold's red ants over Heather as payback for Heather's scheming. Harold's prototype is designed with many differences from his final appearance. The most notable differences including his logo on his shirt, his visible pink collar, and his undershirt hanging loosely from the bottom of his blue overshirt. Okay, so this is basically Harold. Again, Harold's one of the few characters who kind of didn't change in the final version, which I think is really interesting. Like, apart from his t-shirt that like changed into like a symbol that kind of similar to Duncan's. But I think Harold's personality is just going to be the same. Like, there's nothing Harold I can see that would change. So next up we have Justin. Although Justin shares an identical body type with his original model, his face looks very different. The Cam TV version of Justin has dotted eyes, dedicated eyebrows, a smaller nose, a friendlier smile, and a more defined chin. So this is Justin's design for Cam TV. So really his face is kind of different, which is kind of it. Like, Justin's personality is probably the same, and I have a feeling Justin potentially probably in Heather's alliance instead of Heather, because she doesn't exist. Or Tyler was on the team, and maybe Lindsay is like manipulating Tyler to get the Killbastard League's challenges. That makes sense. I'm just trying to think in universe, because if the teams are roughly the same, probably have Katie and Beth instead, since Katie never swaps teams with Izzy because Izzy doesn't exist. So Justin, very similar character, not a lot to be said here. Next up we have Katie. Don't mention much about their prototypes. Quick side note, everybody. It's because I don't think the personalities would change it that much. Katie's prototype wore long trousers instead of shorts, features different hairstyles. Her original design can be seen in the cardboard paparazzi rock and roll Additionally, a slew of her Katie appears in audience during the aftermath episodes, and Jamaica, where Katie's prototype can be spot serving drinks. So she's used in later episodes like cameos. Okay, that's pretty cool. Katie was here. It was Katie's original design. So I think Katie and Sadie were still going to be BFFLs. I think that wasn't going to change. But I think Katie and Sadie kind of had a more original look to their characters. Instead of like copying, pasting clothing, and they kind of had similar outlooks. My theory, I believe Katie might have been a more important character. So, Lashana had 3 distinct designs during the Camp TV development. Her appearance changed dramatically with each transition. Her first design, she wore a skirt along with her regular shirt, which featured 4 Como quads on it, as well as a large hoop earrings, high heels, and a hat. Her second design showed a little with the first apart from her face, hair, hat, and heels. This version featured an aqua tracksuit paired with the golden earrings. The third design combined with elements of both previous versions, resulting in Lashana seen in Total Drama, though with a different t-shirt and additional braces on the right. Lashana's second design was later repurposed for her cousin, Lashaniqua, with modified color scheme. So this is Lashana's original design. It looks like that she looked a bit like Shaniqua, and that's where the kind of t-shirt came from. Then her second design's kind of the same. She's a bit slimmer build, but like she looks a lot like Shaniqua in an action when Lashana is trash talking in the TDA, and she's fake crying. And this is the final version of Lashana. Like this Lashana is almost identical, except her arm bracelet isn't obviously there. But apart from that, like, this is basically Lashana, like, in Camp TV. I believe Lashana's character was going to be friends with Lindsay in this version, since in one scene, it was seen that in the trailer, her and Lindsay were getting on really well. At some point, she fell out with Lindsay, which I believe causes them to have a bit of a rivalry, similar to how Lashana and Heather. With Heather, it just kind of came out of nowhere, but it kind of made sense because Heather obviously didn't want to jump. I feel like in this version, they would have built up that rivalry, and Lashana might have initially been Lindsay's friend and been on her side, but I think she might have actually gone home early in this version, where I think Katie would have actually been an important character as like the alliance of like Lindsay and Justin maybe. I feel like Lashana might have been in that position, and she possibly could have been a Beth, where she might have flipped later. So I think that's the case for Lashana, and let's get on to the next character, Lindsay. And I think everyone's kind of excited for this one because Lindsay has a lot that changes between this character. So Lindsay was one of the main characters of Camp TV, with many other campers seeing her to serve as a supporting character around her. As in the final show, she was portrayed as a spoiled rich girl. The narrator even refers to her as the spoiled princess in the promo. This sounds familiar to one Heather's name. Lindsay still has a relationship with Tyler, which appears to be similar dynamics between Jeff and Bridget in action. The two are seen making out with several pictures. The relationship is the only one shown in Camp TV that remained unchanged throughout Rhode Island. Lindsay's also seems to be very close to Lashana, as I said earlier. They appear to have numerous scenes even putting on nail polish. However, since Heather wasn't present at Camp TV, Lashana insulted Lindsay in one scene. It's unclear whether or not they were best friends or adversaries. Lindsay's original design does not dramatically change from the final appearance. Aside from the obvious shift in art style, Camp TV's version of Lindsay is worn a white polka dot banana scandal instead of boots, a visible reddish brown trousers, so visible, yeah. And then a tank top and straps instead of brown. Hair is bushy still. So that's kind of, I won't read the rest of that because I don't want to get in trouble. So that's kind of what it says. I'll give you guys a few seconds to read it. Yeah, the final product of Lindsay hadn't really changed except this bit. Part of the trouser was kind of moved later on. The band and the dots weren't there. Like, Lindsay was going to be the main antagonist of this arc. She was going to be the Heather of this situation. I think Tyler was going to be like a Justin, like the second villain, kind of like a secondary antagonist. weird in Ireland because Tyler always leaves. I've always had an issue with Tyler leaving because he leaves really early, and I feel like he kind of was supposed to stay around a bit longer, but they just had to eliminate him, so Lindsay's allowed to have her. Even the original was Tyler and Lindsay were on different teams, dating, but it's more strategic, and Tyler is telling Lindsay like the weaknesses of other players, but she isn't sabotaging the other teams until merge. Since Chris would have said the merge, now they don't know when merge will happen, but Lindsay knows there's going to be a merge in this game. So the more allies Tyler has, the easier they'll be able to vote off people. And that's kind of Lindsay's thing. And I think as a spoiled princess, I don't think she'd be like a Heather where she's just mean to everyone. She seems to be like a nice person, like she was. She's like, I didn't know we had to jump in the river. Like, she seemed like kind of nice and naive. She's kind of like secretly kind of a genius, where Lindsay like uses her looks to take advantage of people, similar to Justin, right, and Alejandro. But she's kind of manipulative in that way as well. And I feel like that's kind of interesting for Lindsay because Lindsay's just a nice character all around. You wouldn't expect that from Lindsay, but that is Lindsay for you. About Lindsay, we don't know whether or not Lindsay and Tyra's relationship was sincere, or that, but I'll get to that later. Despite Owen being a finalist, he seemed to actually be the only support character in the original storyline. He briefly created the problem with some of the other campers showering. Okay, though his feet was only visible, the rest of the hidden scene, yet most of the basic elements of Owen's design are present in the prototype. Though with no few differences, So Owen, he's basically the same, but it says cake me instead of the usual maple leaf. So it's much longer and curled up on each side. Okay. So this was going to be Owen in the final version, and I can kind of get why Cake Me got removed, and this walked around. Like, Owen seemed to be more of like a survivalist kind of character, like his shoulder pads were kind of ripped. So Owen wasn't going to be a main character, which kind of says to me he was going to be an early boot in Camp TV. He wasn't going to make it to the finale. Actually, Jeff might have made it to the finale, or Trent. Since Lindsay probably would have wanted to keep Trent around because Trent wasn't very liked on the team, but I think Owen was going to be a very minor character. And so, similar to Noah and Tyler and Cody in World Tour, I think he might have actually, well, not really Cody, so he made Fat Four, but like, he would have just been a supporting character throughout the episodes. Like, Owen wouldn't have a lot to say, you know, very similar to like Noah and Justin, like Island, you know, they were kind of supporting characters. So he probably got eliminated early on, to be honest, in this version. But then I think the writers fell in love with the character, and that's why he kind of got kept. So now we'll move on to the next character. So Sadie. Sadie's prototype is different slightly from her final variants. In her early version, she's much thinner, wore different clothes than Katie, and has a completely different hairstyle. The original design has been reused multiple times throughout the franchise. It appears as a paparazzi member in the rock and roll, so very similar to like Katie's. In the matter of Sadie's prototype can be seen sitting at the end of the audience. The same design can be used for one of Heather's friends that builds Heather's alternate reality episode. Sadie's original design also appeared in Total Drama Action Reunion Special as Justin's girlfriend, who he later broke up with, in a Polish clip from Already Out on Telephone. This cannot to be seen with Justin on the stretcher through the demolished Aftermath studio. The final appearance of Sadie's prototype appears in the Redux Space, where she briefly serves Crimson Anomaly a pot of beans in the episode Little Blood and Pirates. I remember seeing her prototype actually in the action where Justin broke up with his girlfriend. So this was Sadie. I actually remember seeing this design for Justin. Now, Katie and Sadie are very similar people, so I imagine they would still be FFFs. And I imagine that she was going to be like Tyler's ally. And like I said before, Eva and Tyler and Katie may have been in an alliance and Ezekiel, right? So potentially, like, Katie might have she might have got with Justin. Like, that's a possibility. She may have gone out with Justin for a while since they used the prototype. So obviously there were plans. And, like, it doesn't make sense to use a prototype character if you don't have a plan for it. So I believe she would have gone out with Justin. And potentially Katie and Sadie might have actually started off friends. bicker like they did in 6, and then eventually realize they need each other and develop into their own characters. I think that makes a lot of sense. So I think that's KCD. The problem with KCD is a lot of people don't like. They can be annoying at times, yeah, but they're never their own characters. Like, I think the problem with KCD is, like, Sadie, she's in 11 episodes. She gets development of phobia factor, and then episode 9, she doesn't do anything except kind of walk around. And then 8, 9, 10, 11, she doesn't really do anything. She never really bonds with anyone. She never makes alliances. She never goes out to defend people. I think in this alternate version that would happen, since again we have less people. So there's probably 4 non-elimination rounds, and I'm guessing nobody kind of comes back in the merge. And if they all, I probably think it's a character. I don't think anybody comes back in the merge though, because it's hard to say though. Like, would somebody come back in the merge? It depends who got eliminated. Maybe, maybe not. But the point is, I think Sadie was going to be a important enough character. Eventually kind of stems with Tyler and Lindsay, right? So that's kind of my theory for her character. And she was Justin's girlfriend that he broke up with. I definitely remember seeing her now. Trent. Trent was one of the main characters in Camp TV, although he described as having been late arrival to camp. In terms of design, the only difference between Camp TV look and Drama is his shirt reads Smiths instead of featuring handprint symbol. His personality, however, was almost completely different from his final counterpart. While he and Gwen were a couple of drama, the two were bitter enemies in Camp TV. So several images show them trying to strangle each other, and Trent was also notably unpopular with the other campers, where in the final show he was very well liked by nearly everyone. His lack of popularity seemed to stem from the fact that he was the only camper considered normal. That said, some promo art TV did show Jeff with his arm around Trent, both of them smiling happily, which may suggest that he was eventually accepted by the others. So this is Trent, identical to his original design. So him and Gwen were going to be rivals. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Now, I have kind of a crazy enough theory. Do you guys remember the kiss between... Well, you probably do, but remember the kiss between Heather and Trent? I always thought it was really odd that Trent got gold enough to be tricked by Heather. What if, in a prototype, is it possible that Trent and Eva are going to be a couple? That is possible. Or maybe Trent and Bridget, right? Or maybe Keen and Sadie. Or something like that. Or he just isn't with anyone. Maybe Trent and Prototype wasn't planned to be in a relationship. Now, the thing is, Trent is almost identical. When they say normal, he arrives... I think he arrives late in the waves. Nobody else is happy to see him. Not even DJ, the nicest guy there, is not happy to see Trent. It's likely because Trent's considered normal. I think that just means, like, quite get what that means, but I'm guessing he's, like, the chillest guy. And when you look at the products like Duncan, Harold, you know, DJ, like, when you look at all these characters, Trent is probably normal in the sense that, well, all of them are probably poor. I imagine Trent was probably a bit richer, similar to Ezekiel, in the sense that I feel like Trent had a lot of money, and I feel like even though he's a decent guy, he wasn't really the most decent, and he didn't like Gwen, which is crazy. Had a rivalry with Jeff. Now, it was eventually revealed that him and Jeff do become friends, but I think it's more like a Duncan and Harold situation where the two of them started hating each other. Jeff, I feel like there would have been an actual reason though, like maybe Trent got in a fight with Gwen and Jeff breaks it up, something like that. I feel like it seemed like, you know, Jeff and Gwen weren't going to make up and probably stay rivals, which I think is the case. And I think that's just really interesting how Trent was going to be like a very different person to his final version. From what I've seen with those screenshots, it's kind of crazy that Trent like strangles Gwen, like kind of grabs her, which is pretty crazy. For Trent, like he's just such a cool guy. His popularity doesn't exist in this. It appears that he's not that guy, which is crazy. Now, the final character we have to go through is Tyler, because there are a few additional characters as well. So, another one of my favorite characters. So, Tyler has two designs in Camp TV. His first design was later reused for an intern in the main series, appearing in the first three aftermaths as well as the mutiny on the soundstage. His second design is quite different. Instead of wearing his familiar red tracksuit, he sports a light blue t-shirt, cargo shorts. This version of Tyler also is short, crop hair, and more ape-like features. His relationship with Lindsay remains the same. He's still portrayed as quite clumsy. The trailer shows him as frequently getting hurt. The original decision was ultimately kept and later recycled for Duncan, his parole officer with the different clothes. As in Duncan's video message from home, briefly show one of them over the cuckoo nest. So this was Tyler's first design. This intern, in case you guys don't remember, this was the intern that in Total Drama World Tour, when Chris told Duncan it was a non-elimination, he threw him at the plane. That is this intern. So that's what Tyler possibly could have looked like here. And this is Tyler with Lindsay. This is Tyler. He looks nothing like his original counterpart in Total Drama Island. His prototype is completely different. Clumsy character, still very funny. But I think he might have been a bit more serious in the sense that, you know, he cared for Lindsay. I think he was a bit more of a serious character. So I think Lindsay, he still would have been the same. I don't think Tyler's personality would have changed, because I think that is still a Tyler thing. So it's just unclear whether or not him and Lindsay's relationship was sincere, or was it a case for Lindsay betraying Tyler, or was she actually on the moon? I'm hoping, and I could be wrong, that I think it starts off as initially like a manipulation. Initially, I think Lindsay wants to use Tyler, but simply having Alejandro, I think it gets to the point where, oh, I've actually fell in love with him. Like, that's kind of where it gets to the point. Now, obviously, they're not as standish office people. Heather and Alejandro are more standoffish people, and that's not the case with Tyler and Lindsay. Like, they're more kind of bubbly as a couple. Two additional characters. So, in the early stages, Todd Coffey mentioned one of his biggest blog posts. Camp TV featured two teams developed by the full cast. One of the characters named that would never materialize in actual characters are Jessica, Hillary, and Mandy. However, it's unknown whether these characters were names or renames, combined or revisit together in different characters, or dropped entirely. Kaufman has since stated no characters were ever cut, with the notion two teams of 12 may have been the original intention with these two characters would have been Chris and Chef. He added that lineup might have been originally meant to be include 24 contestants before settling on 22. As a result, those two potentially contestants never had their names developed or accepted because the numbers of the contestants was reduced early in production. So that's actually really interesting. Now, I have some trivia, and then I'm just going to do some screenshots, kind of go through like the pictures and kind of talk about them. So I might just do that really, like, okay. So trivia. The Children Island special campers, yeah. Courtney, Heather, and Izzy. Some of the characters such as Trent, Lindsay, were not there. Some of the characters such as Trent, Lindsay, Jeff, Harold, and LaShawn remain nearly identical in Camp TV personas, while others like Duncan, Beth, Ezekiel, Cody, Gigi, and Eva were significantly altered. However, according to Tom McGillis and Jeff Jones, Courtney and Heather were always planned for Camp TV, suggesting that the lineup showed from promotions and may have been forgotten or incomplete. So that would have been like 20 people. So it seemed like Heather and Courtney were probably planned to be these characters. And maybe during production, they kind of felt Lindsay's personality and who the character Lindsay was in Tyler. For Lindsay, it just didn't suit her character, and that's probably why they swapped it to Heather. Her personality is probably why they swapped it to Heather, which makes a lot more sense. However, according to Tommy Gillison, so Brock Rockwell was originally the host and producer of Camp TV, according to the original first animation of the series. I've heard this is rumored before, so Brock was going to be the original host or producer. I'm more inclined to say he probably was the producer rather than the host, because Chris Jeff says, "Chris McLean, I love you, man," implying Chris was going to be the host anyways. So it's possible it was like a co-host situation where it was Brock and Chris, which would be interesting. The group saying "Hey Now" was later used in Not So Happy Campers Part 1. Tyler's line "Have a cow" was given to Owen in Not So Happy Campers, so Tyler would have said "have a cow" instead. That would be interesting. So maybe Tyler's a bit more like Owen when he gets older quite fast. Lindsay said, "I thought this was going to be a talent contest" in the promo line, a line she later repeats in Not So Happy Campers Part 2. In the promo, LaShawna says to Tyler, "Excuse me, what did you say to me? You haven't seen anything yet. I'll show you, big baby." She delivers this line to Harold in Not So Happy Campers Part 1. So that's really interesting. Tyler was supposed to say the line to LaShawna in the promo, and she was going to fight Tyler. I don't know what that would have gone. That would have been cool to see, actually. She also beat up Tyler in the promo after saying the line. Later in Trial by Triathlon, she beats up Duncan for judging the other campers' weight. Okay. So, Trial by Triathlon's final 6. So Duncan was probably more judgy than the original version of what we got. So that was interesting. Don't think I would have liked that for Duncan. TV designs for DJ, Duncan, Tyler, Katie were later reused for interns and other minor characters, such as Duncan's brother Ross throughout. Most of the designs have been modified in some way. In 2004, Fresh TV's overall Camp TV, 3 characters were named who did not appear in the actual show: Hillary, Jessica, and Mandy. In July 2006, the drama Jessica was renamed Heather. The storyline involving Hillary and Mandy was revisited, including Jeff, Duncan, and Jeff. So that's interesting. Heather was going to be called Jessica in 2007, but renamed Heather. It makes sense though, if Gwen in the final version will later swap to Gwen. So Duncan and Jeff, the storyline involving Hillary and Mandy was revisited by Duncan and Jeff. So I'm guessing Hillary and Mandy were going to be friends, similar to Jeff and Duncan. While Chris is holding up the magazine in Not So Happy Campers Part 2, mentions that the winner will get cheesy tabloid fame. His prototype design of LaShawna and Duncan appear on the covers. That's actually interesting. So that's cool. No, actually, cool fact. In the promo, Lindsay is attacked by Harold's red ant farm. The not same thing happens to Heather, though this time it's no accident. Gwen puts the ants in Heather's bed as revenge for reading the diary. So Gwen would have done it on purpose. And Lindsay, case of like, it's same thing. Though this time it's no accident. So this was planned with Harold. So maybe Harold and Gwen did it. So that would have been pretty cool. So it would have been Lindsay instead of Heather. Maybe Tyler tries to help Lindsay. That would have been pretty cool. I'm trying to think in the universe how this story would kind of go as well. Like when I'm explaining these theories. It's hard because we don't know. That's why it's so cool to like theorize it. It's unclear which campers the announcer refers to as the rest in the promo, as nothing is visible except their feet. That is true if you watch the trailer, by the way. The prototype teacher's cheerful and demeanor as physical seems to have been recycled into the final version of Owen, while Lindsay's bad attitude, bossiness, and haughty mannerisms were apparently used to create both Courtney and Heather. Yet, while DJ's final version was changed drastically, Lindsay changed only slightly, which I showed earlier with the image of Lindsay, which actually makes a lot of sense. The bad attitude, the haughty manners and bossiness. I could see that creating Courtney and Heather actually. In the best game ever game for total drama action, if players chose a female character, the prototype hairstyles of Katie and Sadie are possible looks. The sharks at the bottom of the cliff use an episode 2 jump sequence seen in Not So Happy Camps Part 2. In the promo, Duncan and Tyler are on the raft, sharing a high five just before falling into the water. This mirrors LaShawn has slapping each other onto the rift. An opening sequence in Total Drama Island. So instead, it was going to be Tyler and Duncan. That would have been really cool to see. Like, Duncan and Tyler are both strategical to my favorite characters, so having them fight on, like, high five, sharing a high five would be kind of cool. Lindsay and Tyler still have a romantic relationship, just as they were supposed to at Camp TV. This makes their only relationship in Camp TV prototype that was recycled into the finished show. So Lindsay and Tyler are the only couple that seems to be in both the prototype and the actual main version. And it is really nice how they don't break up that couple. I think that's so sweet that they've honoured that as well. The Camp TV commercial states that 12 campers will be competing, but only 11 are shown. Jeff, Trent, Gwen, DJ, Tyler, Lindsay, Cody, Harold, and Beth. Additionally, 6 pairs of feet appear at the showers, labelled as the rest, bringing the total up to 17. All but 1. LaShawn and Tyler seem to have a conflict in Camp TV. However, this was changed to drama as the two never interacted on screen until Celebrity Manhunt in Total Drama Action Special. That is really true, actually, which is really interesting because you would have thought that LaShawn had taught Tyler a bit more, but that's not the case. Camp TV originally was going to be featured in 10 contestants in 2003. When the series was retooled in 2004 by 12 contestants, by 2006, 18 contestants were designed before the series was retooled once last time into Total Drama Island. According to the first 2 directors, Total Drama Todd Kaufman and Mark Thorian, Lindsay was originally intended to be the antagonist of the show, and Gwen's original name was Heather. When creating Lindsay, Todd McFarlane revealed that he was aiming for Reese Witherspoon's kind of look that may have been recycled into Courtney's character into the finished show. However, while it has been confirmed that Courtney is based on the Witherspoon Tracy flick, many of Lindsay's gestures and attitudes resemble the character Ellie Woods, who also played a Witherspoon. This is suggested that more than one of her roles may have been referenced during the creative process. Trent's Camp TV design was used most of Cartoon Network's promotional materials. In older prototype filler, the group includes Beth, but in newer versions, she's replaced by LaShawna, suggesting that the role was swapped during development. So Beth might have actually had a more important role than originally, when they later thought LaShawna would be more interesting to keep around. According to Tom McGillis, Jennifer McCarthy were named Total Island late into the process of telephone, including the new title too long. McGillis and insisted on keeping it anyway. So it appeared like that in this version that was kind of added later, so that Total Drama was very late then into kind of getting the actual name. So Lindsay's sunbathing, this is kind of a screenshot. Tyler diving into like the water. He kind of hurts himself somewhere in episode 1. Cody, Beth, and Tyler reaction to the jump. Obviously, Cody's there. Beth and Harold, obviously, they think it's painful. Contestants engage in tug of war. Now, you kind of see DJ Duncan kind of there. Trent, Jeff, Gwen, LaShawna, Lindsay, and I want to say it's Tyler, but I'm not 100% certain. So there was going to be a tug of war challenge in this season. Like we don't see that on the show, so originally that was going to be a possible challenge. DJ admires a butterfly and that lands on his finger. Jeff greets Chris and declares he loves him. So Chris was going to always be in the show. He just doesn't paint the prototype. But Shauna beams with confidence. It seems like Lindsay's got a lot of respect and admires LaShawna. Gwen scowls directly into the camera. Trent waves the other campers. The rest in the shower. So this is basically what I was talking about. The feet, right? So you can only really see the feet. I can't zoom in, but you can only really see the feet, like. So 3, 6. So like they were 6 unnamed characters that we didn't get, and these were these guys and girls, which is interesting. DJ tickles a squirrel. So DJ's character just seems very similar to his prototype from the final version. He just seems like very much the same. Duncan tips over 2 bodies with 2 girls trapped inside it. So Duncan is more probably destructive than like his final version. Trent glares at Jeff after the scene, so it appears that Trent obviously isn't a fan of Jeff. Sharks leap into the water. Heather Gwen inspects the food, and giant worm from Gwen's inside her bowl. So this was very similar to episode 1. This actually happened in the original. So Lindsay pushed Harold's red fire ant farm. So that's what would have happened. Is Lindsay being attacked by the fire ants. Heather and Gwen cuddling with Jeff, which is interesting. So this is like outside the dog. So if they're on different teams or the same team, maybe they were on the same team or different teams. Perhaps in this version, Jeff was on a different team to Gwen. For whatever reason, they are still dating. So obviously they've fallen in love at some point, which is really cool. Shauna prepares to attack Tyler. And then here we have some screenshots of Camp TV's storyboard. Announcer, a guy who loves to party. Cut to the rock and roll music. Pan up to Jeff playing at the top. Gotta love you, Chris McLean. Yes, this is Jeff kind of a scene of him explaining. Shauna, oh no way, the girl this isn't gonna win this year. Shauna, okay. Does she see the circle? Okay, so that's another one. Uses the football. Brief ball accidentally hits the tree, rebounds on Tyra's head. Except Tyra falls onto Gwen. DJ comes onto the frame, petting a squirrel. So Tyra's character is going to be very much the same then. Country 14 and sharks. Cut to, so here's the sharks. And then Camp TV by Gerald. To be the last one standing, Trent leans in to exchange a competitive look. So Trent and Jeff are possibly going to have a competitive rivalry as well. So this was when Tyra kind of fell in. And then Cody, Beth, and Harold. So 13 campers in together. So this is all kind of the campers together, roughly. Who were kind of seen, so B, the original prototype. So we had DJ, Duncan, Justin, Bridget, Owen, Eva, Tyler, Ezekiel, Chef, Lashana, Katie, and Sadie. So possibly Chef was going to be a contestant, which is interesting to know here. He possibly was going to be a contestant. Left to right, early descriptions for Heather, Harold, unnamed character, Beth, Tyler, and Jeff, and another Harold. A sketch of Tyler's second Camp TV design. Sketches Beth, a sketch of Duncan, Beth, Bridget, Chef, B, Cody, Duncan, Eva, Zeke, Jeff, Gwen, Harold, Justin, Katie, Lashana, Sean again, Shauna, Lindsay, Owen, Sadie, Trent, Tyler, and then this was Camp No Rocket, kind of the same as original. Main launch. A sweeping view of the island. Another view of the island. A third view of the island. An early logo of Camp TV's Fresh TV. Thrum Island. There's the filler. See, these were obviously, I believe these were all the main characters. So DJ, Trent, Jeff, Gwen, Tyler, and Lashana. Count campers, yeah. And see, Lashana throwing up. They're making out. Duncan is obviously trying to snake. DJ is trying to fight Duncan. Jeff is just kind of nearly falling, and Gwen and Trent obviously strangle each other, which is still mad to me. Additional filler scenes of total drama. So another prototype flip book. So The Great Outdoors, Total Drama Island, the most unreal 26 episodes, 30 minutes for tweens. So Not So Great Outdoors. So I'm guessing the challenges were the same, but it was Not So Great Outdoors and Dodgeball. Not Quite Famous, The Sucky Outdoors. So that's really cool. And then you can see Gwen, Trent, Lindsay, Duncan stare at Trent. Like that's pretty funny. Like nobody likes Trent of this group. Like you can see Duncan doesn't like him. Jeff doesn't especially like him. Tyler either, or Lindsay. So her being a spoiled princess, it seems like Lindsay was probably going to be really well liked, which is going to be a challenge for her villain. There's no sharks. Duncan and Tyler are on the boat together, and then Lindsay and Lashana. So that is it for Camp TV. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thank you guys so much for watching. I have more to tell you, but if you guys find anything, let me know. Like, let me know, what is your theories? Like, what do you think the show would have been if it came out? And I have one more question for you guys before I end the video. Would you guys love to see this actually happen, or do you guys think you were happy with Total Drama? Like, I would have loved for this to be released anyway into a season, because we don't have Total Drama. And it be its separate thing, right? That would be so cool to see. Like, just having this as a season, like, even if it's like 26 episodes, like, I don't care. Like, it'd just be so cool to see this season. Like, especially like someone like Duncan, like a Gwen and Trent rivalry, which is so hard to picture. Cody's character probably is very different as well. Like, does he have his crush at Gwen? We don't know. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys for watching. And yeah, peace and farewell.